Happy Friday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. Another episode of You've Gotta Be Sha Tinning Me. I'm joined as always by Mr. Matt Carlson. Matt, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing okay. Take winnings from Wednesday at Happy Valley and immediately give them back to the Masters and whatever else is going. So,
Yeah,
such as
it's
betting.
oh, man, it's been so tough. Um, I feel like today I made a real big mistake because at Keeneland, like the turf pick 3 came back very chalky, but it basically was the way I saw the races going. But I just didn't press my opinion enough. I didn't press my opinion enough, and part of the reason why is because that stupid pick 6 carryover took about 75% of what I was willing to put in today. And so because of it, like I was basically left with the base bet on the turf pick 3, which was I hit. I basically, I mean, I was still down for the day, but it got me back a little bit of cash to, to have a little bit tomorrow to play through the races. So, um, but yeah, I don't know, man. Keelan's been tough. I always think Keelan's tough. Um, I always get excited for Keeneland, and then within the first couple days, I'm like, I don't know why I'm excited for this meet every year, but
I think it's tough because two things, right? Like it's just insanely fair, right? Like anytime you think you see a bias, and granted, like it's been a speed bias, I think. So there
right.
are certain track configurations where like, okay, if you're dirt routing, like you have to be inside speed and all that. So like that stuff still plays, but you know, it, it's tough because you'll start playing that and then either jockeys adjust or it's not really there and you kind of get screwed on a race. And the other thing is like, right, like you just see these nonsensical bombs and like you spend 6 months of winter racing with nobody taking like these ridiculous shots, right? Like Saratoga is very much a track where stuff will come in that doesn't make any sense because trainers are disguising their horses, right? They know they have something and nobody else knows they have it, so like they're going to enter there, right? They're targeting that. No one's targeting like winter aqueduct, no one's targeting turfway, like stuff like that. That's just kind of under the radar, right? Like you want that win at Keeneland, you want that win at Saratoga. Nobody wants a win at parks, right? Like so it just gets tough because you have to read like beyond the page of like trainer intent and stuff like that. And you get these nonsense horses that come in and you're just kind of not used to it, right? So I always find that tough because that, and part of the reason I bet Hong Kong, right, to tail this into the podcast is like I don't think you're allowed to do that stuff. You're not really allowed to disguise your horse here the same
Mm,
way. I was thinking that like, trainer intent is not an angle here because if you do that, right, like they might kick you out. They might ban you if you like, you know, all of a sudden like, just put in a horse that you didn't have any idea about, right? Horses can win at large prices, but they're going to win on their own merit, not like a, hey, I'm going to tell my friends about this horse and enter it because I know that this horse is loaded when nobody else does off like a 6 months layoff. So I don't know. It's just weird stuff like that.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I feel like American racing is filled with, they know money at this point, and you just gotta. I feel like sometimes you just gotta hope you're on the right end of it. Um,
I feel like that goes beyond horse racing now. Kind of the stock market this week felt that way too. So
Jesus
it's
Christ, dude.
somebody knows. The old George Carlin quote. It's a big club and you ain't in it. So
Yeah, I know, dude. I saw our friend Andrew Champagne posted about poker, right? And how there's a lot of parallels between poker and horse racing. And yeah, I mean, the computers are all all over poker too. To the point where I know, there's a couple of instances the last couple of years where people were talking about solvers in live tournaments, not just online tournaments. And sit and goes for the most part are solved, right, with ICM and stuff like that. And yeah, it's just, I mean, everywhere. I mean, I remember back when I played poker, the big rub was UIs, right?
Yeah.
That would scrape and like collect stats, and like you could see somebody's VPIP and all this other nonsense, or three bet percentage and stuff like that. And they're like, well, like, how is this fair? How is this like, like,
And and to be fair, they had that stuff 20 years ago,
mm-hmm,
right? Like, I mean, I was playing in college, and like, granted, not for big money, right? Like, I'm playing, $6 sit and goes and whatnot, but yeah, I mean that stuff existed a while ago. I can't even imagine what it's like now. I haven't played poker in a long time. But
yeah, but yeah, I mean, they're just trying to take the fun out of everything, Matt. The only true game now is going to be the old table game. All right, give me a 3-2 blackjack table. But
I mean, and it's funny though because I do feel like people are posting about that of like, oh well, like chess had a moment, right? And like I do feel like stuff like you know people are like, oh, horse racing needs its moment, and poker needs its moment, and it's like they kind of had their moments, right? They kind of were in that time where people were willing to learn analytics, but also weren't overwhelmed by people who already knew it, right? Like if you took a statistics class, right, you'd be versed in it. But now it's just, you could pop it into a Gen AI bot and, have it, kind of put you out of the field, right? And someone's already eating your lunch on that stuff. Where, I do feel like then it's a resurgence of kind of games that are not immune to it, but just harder, right? Look at like hockey, right? Hockey is so like bounce dependent, right? Like betting hockey is you go nuts, right? Same with betting like golf, I mean baseball is kind of all analytically, you know, screwed over at this point, but things like football and hockey that are very like live action and very, kind of moment dependent, I think are still interesting. Whereas you have other games like, hey, you could, play chess or poker or horse racing or things like that that are very data dependent, right? There's static events that are like, okay, well, someone's going to be smarter than me with this, and also feel like, hey, you're probably not getting a fair shake with some stuff, right? You could play chess online and you don't know what you're up against. You could bet horse racing online and you don't really know what you're up against right now, right? I mean, I just posted about that where who knows what's allowed, right? But you're probably not getting a fair shake with some of this stuff, right? So chess, you could be playing against someone who just loaded Deep Blue on their computer and, is like ramming you. There's nothing about chess,
I
but
mean,
just knows how
Deep
to,
Blue sucks now.
well,
Like
yeah, I
so,
mean,
chess is
yeah, Deep Blue is 25 years ago, but you get
uh,
what I'm saying, right? Of just like, you could have some 8-year-old kid who, goes online and says, hey, like, here's my current board state. What's the move I should make
yep,
next? Right? Like,
yeah.
great. 8-year-old kid's a grandmaster because he just follows what the, computer tells him to do. Right.
Well,
You could do that 20 years ago. I don't even know what you could do now with that stuff. So, hey, it's different times, or it sucked the fun out of it. But hey, internet
well,
was a mistake. Welcome to
well,
our
it's funny,
podcast.
right? So like, it's funny because, um, I in chess, depending on the site and depending on the mode I'm playing, right, I'm between like 1100 and like 1400 rated, right? It just depends, right? So I'm probably closer to like true strength, probably like between like 1,000 to like 15, 11 or 1150, right? Somewhere. It's probably my true strength. And especially when I'm like really, really playing, I'm probably like a little bit higher. But like at this point, I just don't study. I don't do puzzles. I haven't really improved much. But when I was playing all the time on chess.com, uh, once or twice a week, I'd get a notification. Hey, just so you know, we refunded you ELO points because so and so had breached, the fair playing. And it's like, dude, like well, I'm not gonna say peasant ELO because like for like relative to like the casual chess player, like I'm pretty high, right? Now in the entire chess world, I'm very much between beginner and intermediate level, right? But to like the average person who's like, I know how to play chess, like I'm probably very, very good. But Yeah, at my level, I was getting once or twice a week someone trying to cheat that way, right? And you know, it almost reminds me a little bit. I don't know if you remember playing DFS when it first started, and
Very briefly, yeah. But
so the interesting thing about DFS is like at a certain point, um, right? Like you were like, okay, well, all the best players are only going to play the high value tournaments, right? No, they can enter the same damn lineups in every single tournament.
their computer knows how to do that at every single level. If you're gonna make
Yeah,
40 cents, like it doesn't cost them anything to make an extra 40 cents. Like play the dollar tournament too. So
exactly. So it didn't matter. It didn't matter what level you played at. You basically had the sharks in there, and you were just the fodder. And I think that's eventually what killed DFS. I mean, not. I mean, DFS is still around, but you know, and like when I play, I basically only play single entry at this point. But yeah, it's just I don't know, man. Everyone's sucking the fun out of everything. You're sucking the fun out of my idea of going to Atlantic City because you say I'm going to get mugged. So I mean,
it's a place I've never been. You should go, right? Like have fun.
yeah, I should go and get mugged. Yeah, so you can say I told you so. Yeah, I know.
Hey, it's better than a computer mugging you. You know,
I mean, yeah, that I mean that happens on a weekly basis. But
welcome to Keeneland.
um, yeah, I mean, honestly, this is just like this is a upside down episode because you have a cocktail, I got wine, so I mean, we're not even drinking beer, so who knows what the heck is going on today? But let's talk some racing here. The slate pick three starts with race nine, the nurturing talent handicap, 1,000 meter race here, and you got a nice full field here of 14 with an AE. And you know we're gonna change things up a little bit, Matt. I'm gonna let you go first. Where did you land here?
I mean, probably on the chalk, right? I landed on justifying. If he runs the same race he ran last time, that horse is probably going to win by a couple lengths, right? Like he won by 6 lengths over a horse that won next out by 6 lengths. So, look, I don't think anybody beats justifying in here unless something happens. Granted, it's 1,000 meter race, so something could happen. But realistically, I do kind of see this very chalky, and I think you know, he'll probably just dust his field, right? I don't want that, but you know, I think it probably will happen. I do think there's some other value in here, whether from a pick three perspective, maybe I don't know, but potentially from a vertical perspective, right? Obviously, if you get around justifying, I think a pick three will pay immensely more, but I don't know if you can justify those winning, no pun intended. But the other two horses, I do think you could use, right? One is the three, one more, right? I mean, look, if you get a Zach first time starter at 1,000 meters, Zach has hit the board in the 1,000 meter races at like an absurd percentage, right? He's 12 for 31 on the win line, which is like 40%. I think he's 21 for 31 over the past year and hitting the board on 1,000 meter races. Like, he's above 66%, whatever that is. He's close to 70% hitting the board in the 1,000 meter races. That's insane, right? And if you get a price on that, right? Like if either you see like Quinella or an Exacta paying well with like a 10-3 Exacta, I mean, I expect that to be slammed because people see that, right? This is an incredibly savvy betting market. But if a 10-3 Exacta is paying a reasonable amount, like shovel some money into it, right? Like, because I think Zach could be on a mule and he'd probably have a good chance of hitting the board at 1,000 meters. So I do think one more is interesting. The only other one that I think could be interesting in here is the 7, Sparkling Fellow, right? I do think he's drawn well. I do think there is still a bias on the outside of this racetrack. Excuse the race at Happy Valley last out because Happy Valley at 1,000 meters is vastly different from Sha Tin, as you all know. And, the 2,000 meter races at Sha Tin were pretty good, right? Granted, that horse was drawn well, but, it was improving, it was closing, kind of had some trouble in each of those starts as well. So maybe there's something there, right? And so I do think, again, price dependent. I think justifying probably goes off like 1 to 5 in this race. So those are the two that I could at least say, okay, if you want to try and get balloons somewhere else, or if you think the rest of the sequence is chalky, maybe use those as Bs. But I will kind of just eat the chalk here and say justifying is probably a lot faster than anybody else is going to be running here at 1,000 meters.
Yeah, I took the Caleb approach here, and I tossed out justifying, and I'm gonna try and get around, probably much to the detriment of my bankroll. I landed on the 3-1 more. Um, yeah, horse has been trialing very well. Zach on the first time starter, looks pretty good. All the reasons you mentioned. Um, the number 6 big return is drawn very very well here, and in his last trial, actually, I think um, won a little bit. He, kind of sat at midfield and won by a short head. Um, I don't know. It doesn't seem like the clockers really were like super impressed by that apparently, but um, I think it's a good draw here, and yeah, I'll take a shot there with the win off the trial, and then as bees, I use the one celestial colors. I think right the Happy Valley races are whatever, but I think the two Sha Tin races both look really good. Um, Unfortunately, this drew the wrong rail, so I think is going to have maybe a bit of a tough time, especially at the high weight. But does have races that do fit in with this group. And then the last B I have, I mean, would it really be 1,000 meter race if I didn't bet Brittany Wong? Um, 12 Magic Hollow. There's absolutely nothing in this horse's PPs to tell you that this horse is gonna run very well, but is drawn all right. Is drawn in the 11 post. Has shown a little bit of speed both times, and both times kind of had a little bit of trouble in those races. I mean, not enough trouble to justify finishing basically dead last in the last two starts, but hey, you know, I've spent money in worse ways, so I'll use the 12 as a B here. But most of my money's gonna be going through the 3 and the 6 in here, the two first time starters. Anything else on that race, Matt?
No, I mean it's 1,000 meters, so who knows, right? Stuff can happen.
Race 10, the Advancing Culture and Sports 1,800 meter handicap. We're going 1,800 meters here, one turn race still, and I landed on three horses in this race. Um, We'll start with the number 7, Flying Luck, who is yet to run at this distance. But this just seems like a horse that's kind of gotten better as got better going the 1,600 meters, and maybe is one that's going to appreciate the extra distance. Um, is still going to be at a fairly low weight. Luke Ferraris gets aboard here. Um, is drawn okay. Is drawn in the sixth spot here. Last time was kind of drawn out in the parking lot. So I think with the better draw here, I would expect a little bit of improvement. And so I really like the 7 Flying Luck in this spot on the stretch out. But there's two horses in here that I have shown uh, have run this distance and have shown ability, and that's the 1 and the 3. The 3 Packing Turbine, obviously Zach aboard, one last time out, obviously with a huge weight break and is gaining a bunch of weight in this race here, but still is one that seems to have just relishes this extra distance, right? In two tries at this distance, has got a win in a third. So seeing the fact that Zach gets aboard here, really like that. Maybe a little concerned that this horse is out in the 10 post, but you got a pretty long run up to that first turn, so has time to make a little bit of adjustment there. And then the one enthralled here, yeah, just another one. One at 2,000 meters, had a slight cutback last time and just missed narrowly in that spot. And yeah, I mean, I really don't think that there was anything bad coming out of that race. So I think this horse runs that race that he ran last time. He's going to fit right in here. So yeah, I'm just going to go with those three horses. I'm going to go with the 1, the 3 and the 7. Matt, where did you land?
It, a little bit different than you, and I guess I'll start with the 7 Flying Luck, who I think initially I ran through and was like, oh, I like this horse, right? He's been closing in really well. Kind of building up that distance, right? If you see those past performances, he's kind of moved up gradually, right? 12, 14, running a mile for the past 5 or 6 races. And, theoretically, right, you'd see, okay, he's closing in and he's moving up to 18. That should just benefit him. But I do have a lot of concerns. And I think he just looks like one of those horses to me that wants to sit at the back no matter the distance, right? And the couple problems with that, I think, are I don't think distance necessarily helps those horses, right? Like if you run, 500 feet and then try and sprint, you're going to sprint a lot faster than if you run 5 miles and try and sprint the last 100 feet, right? You're going to be more tired. So, it just looks to me like one of those horses that is going to, draw back no matter, the post, no matter, kind of the distance that he's running. And I also think the track, given kind of the time of year, is starting to speed up and play a little bit more forward, right? Like this is the kind of the time of year where okay, like different grass is going to come in and the track gets a little bit more firm, and horses aren't going to get as tired as they were kind of in that winter, rainy season, etc. So I don't know what price you get on this horse. I think if he kind of goes off at 6, 7, 8 to 1, maybe it's worth a play, but I don't think you get that with this horse in here. I think you get much shorter, and I'm not really interested at that price. So I don't know, right? I do think he has the ability. I think he fits on my figures to take this race out, but I just think from a value perspective, especially if I'm going to play justifying in the last race, that's probably a horse that I don't want here unless I get the right price on him. So the two places I did go, kind of my low and A in here will be the 12 Goldmaster, which, I mean, a low A for Andre Edzeni is, that always works out for me, right? I, I just think this horse has really been improving, right? I know the class jump is a concern, but kind of that last race, down in class 4, really kind of, dusts this field, right? And the way I've been seeing it, this horse is kind of steadily improving. He keeps getting better and better every race. I don't know if he's going to run a lot better race than last time, but kind of closed into a very slow pace last time at 1800, and even that same race this time, especially at a lower weight, really should kind of have this field over a barrel to me. And so I don't think the weights or the class jumps a concern. He has a good draw again. He has the weight break, kind of move it up in class. I don't think this is the strongest field in the world. So that's kind of where I want to go with most of my money, even though, again, my concerns with that Zenny, no matter the distance or the race. So he'll be my lone A. It, the B I had in here was kind of the horse that I thought you'd play. Um, Kind of the 3 cherry special in the 11
Mm.
Live and Let Live, right? There's no speed signed on in here. And if I do think the track is speeding up and I think it's playing a little bit faster, if that track does play forward, if he gets the right setup, Angus Chung isn't the most inspiring jockey at 1800, but this horse should be loose, right? And I think kind of was victimized by, kind of having to set a fast pace last time and really hasn't had a slow pace going off in any of his races. He might get that here. And, again, I do think Hong Kong jockeys are savvy. They see that stuff. And if they say, hey, this looks like lone speed, sometimes they try and disrupt that, but maybe not. Right. I think if this horse gets the right setup and, kind of the weather plays into him correctly and you get a massive price on him because of it, he's worth a play to me. So I do think Live and Let Live kind of maps the best in this race just from a lone speed perspective. And I'll probably use him as a B. So most of my money will be through Goldmaster. Flying Luck, I'll kind of have that price watch on, thinking I don't get it. And use the 11 Live and Let Live kind of as my B in here. And if he wires, maybe this pays. So
Yeah, I mean, I looked at the 11. I just thought that maybe either the 5 or the 6 um might go. I mean, the 5 has shown a ton of speed, but obviously that's on a dirt. So dirt speed and turf speed don't always necessarily mix. And then the 6 has shown some speed before and is drawn on the rail. So I was curious what the tactics were going to be there from Karis Teton. I mean, last time, sat off the pace and was drawn well. But Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see this so much as a lone speed situation, but you know, maybe maybe you're right and
Yeah,
I'm wrong, which
you
happens
could be
often.
right. I mean, given the rail draw for the 6 and the wide draw for the 5, maybe they both do have to go and kind of try and disrupt that. But hey, just in case, maybe not. At least I know one horse in here does have natural speed, and so between the low weight and the draw and the kind of break with Angus Chung up, to be worth a chance. So
All right, race 11, sustainability 1400-meter handicap, 7 furlongs, unicorn distance here. Um, where did you land?
a couple different places. I thought this race was hard. This is a pretty competitive race, and I kind of went two directions that probably aren't going to be typical for my A's, and then my B's are probably the more standard. Like, hey, you're going to see less of a price on those horses. I guess the two places I went to the 13 Beauty Glory. Probably for the same exact reasons I went to them in the last race on the 11. I just think hey, maybe Angus Chung can wire this race given the incredibly low weight, given the good draw. This horse really hasn't been drawn well for, you know, 4 or 5 months now, right? He's kind of had everything outside of 8. And, maybe, right? I do think if he can ration the speed in the tracks playing forward, I think that's my value play in here. And one that I'm at least willing to use as an A, given kind of how he's been mapping from a like speed figure perspective the last 4 or 5 races. The other horse that I wanted to look at in here was the 9 Kaiying Attack. Typically, I wouldn't play these horses. I do think that a horse coming from like a class 4 restricted race just has such a massive jump to try and get into a class 3 open field, right? Like those restricted races, even going into class 4, are hard class jumps, right? I mean, it's a massive jump to go from restricted to open company in Hong Kong because there's not a lot of restricted races. But the speed is certainly there. I don't know how much money this horse takes. Um, but I do think just on figs, right? Given kind of the layoff, given what this horse has shown, he probably maps the best just from a pure like speed figure perspective on the stuff that I'm running. So the 9 and the 13 will be kind of my primary A's in here. Uh, Otherwise, I mean, I do like his B's, the 4 and the 5, both Light Years Charm and Armor War Eagle. I do think they've been running solid races that kind of against class 3. 4 gets Zach up. I don't know how Zach's you know gonna do, right? He kind of hasn't looked himself after coming back from that injury, but it's still Zach. At some point, he's going to be winning races again, and probably very soon. So hard for me to toss that horse because he does fit. Um, I don't know about the cutback. I kind of am surprised they didn't keep that horse at a mile because he had a lot of trouble last out, and I do think this horse kind of does set up for a mile, but you never know, right? A mile is a hard distance to get into, especially in class 3. There's only so many races, so maybe this horse didn't kind of have his pick. And then Armor War Eagle, I think just is probably very similar. I do think probably needs a setup again. I would normally make this horse an A, but I do think if the track is kind of speeding up and not playing us forward, this is just a one that wants to kind of bomb home from the back. And I do think those horses probably aren't just getting there as much. But look, again, neither of those horses is anything really against them. They've been running in strong races. They've been running really well. They've been closing no matter what the circumstances. So I wouldn't be surprised if either the 4 or the 5 win in here. But 9 and the 13, I think, are kind of my plays to say, okay, if I'm going to try and make the sequence pay anything, that's where I'd want to go. So be a little bit wide in here, but given my first two, that's okay.
Yeah, I like the 4 light years charm. Probably my second pick in this race. I have this horse as an A. Obviously Zach getting the board looks really good. And last time Zach was aboard, this is a horse that was drawn out wide and managed to win, from the 13 post. So I think Zach might be able to work out a trip here with this horse. I like the 3 Hong Lock Golf. Coming in here, drawing pretty well. And one wire to wire last time out. Um, so yeah, I kind of like this one coming in with a really really good form. Obviously, is 3 for 4, 3 wins, with only one loss, and that was a second. So I thought that this is a horse coming in with really really good form. And then my lone B is going to be the one Sky Trust, who I think does have some does have some back races I think that do fit here, but uh, just I don't know, just doesn't like to win. Which I think is kind of tough, right? I mean, this is a horse that's picked up a lot of seconds, the last couple times. Has picked up a lot of checks, going this 1400 meters, but just hasn't really won. And honestly, I would like this horse a lot better if it was drawn better. But this is a horse that is drawn out in the 13 post, so I think it's going to have a kind of a tough go of it. But I thought it has enough talent to win here, but I just think that might be the draw might be a little bit too much to overcome. So I'm 3 and 4 here with the one as a B. Um, Anything else on that race?
No, I mean, I do think Hongluck Golf, right? I think I bet that horse the past couple times. I was just trying to get around it, right? Like I do think that horse, who knows how fast that horse can run, right? I don't think he's really been tested yet, but at the same time, right, he's picking up what 8 pounds, and I don't know, he could be slow, right? And so if that horse takes a lot of money, I just didn't want a piece of it, but
Yeah,
I do think he has just as much right to win as a lot of horses in there.
yeah. And then for my other bet, I mean, would it really be a like best bet if I wasn't looking at the 1,000 meters and just betting Brittany Wong blindly?
It would not.
All right. Yeah, so I took a look at race two, right? We have a class four race here going 1,000 meters. And yeah, Brittany Wong's got in here with a horse that, hasn't tried this distance as of yet. It's kind of been cutting back, cutting back, cutting back. So yeah, I'm interested to see what how this horse runs here with Brittany Wong aboard. I mean, this horse is going to be 1,000,000 to 1, but you know, I have a brand to protect. And this is a race that's got a lot of first time starters in here. Zach's aboard a horse in this race that is kind of coming in off of form. Is coming off in a regular heart rhythm last time out in Thriving Brothers. So yeah, I think there's a lot of uncertainty kind of in this race. And then the speed is drawn all the way on the inside in the Four Parents Love. So yeah, I just think this is gonna be kind of a chaotic race, I think. I think there's gonna be a big price in this race, and so I'm gonna take a shot here with the 10 Robot Master with Brittany Wong aboard. Where did you look?
Yeah, I mean, just on Robot Master, I looked at that horse. I mean, you know me, I like betting layoffs. That horse is actually coming off throat surgery.
Mm.
So yeah, I don't know what happened, right? Like the throat surgery was in January, so clearly, like, I don't know if they were trying to run that horse back or what. Like, it didn't even have any trials though. So, but the last two trials have looked really good on that horse. So, TBD, right? I did not go there though. I
Hmm.
probably went a little more chalky. I went to race 7. I thought the most obvious winner on this card was in race 7. I thought with the 13, he was you. I don't know how price you get on this horse. He probably goes off favored because I do think I've heard some other rumblings of people seeing this horse, right? But I think he was a victim of just the pace last time out, right? Kind of mega sent and kind of changed tactics. Even if you read the comments on that, they questioned, the trip of like, why did you send that horse? That horse has never sent before. And he was like, well, he seemed to do okay in trials doing that. So I was instructed to do that. And it's just like, okay, well, so who knows what tactics they'll use this race. But the last two races of this horse just map way faster than the rest of the field, like multiple legs faster. So with any decent trip and any moderate pace, I do think that he was you should win here. It's not a very strong field. He gets the weight break, gets a decent draw. I just think, looking kind of for that leverage play that I've been able to take advantage of, thankfully, in the past last two meetings, um, should do really well. So that's kind of where I went for my best bet. I don't know what price you get. I do think people will see this horse and probably bet him pretty heavily, but hey, you know, 2 to 1 ain't bad if you place a sizable win bet. I think at least last Sunday, I was able to kind of make a profit just hitting one race, betting
Hmm.
Geneva, like, 2/3 of my bankroll was on Geneva, and the rest of the card I just kind of sprinkled, and I missed all my sprinkles, but I hit Geneva, so great. So maybe that's this kind of horse to me. So yeah, we'll go with that in the 13 in race 7.
I was like me and Hit Show last week. I whiffed everything, but I hit Show. That's all that mattered.
I mean, if you have a strong opinion, like I said, I think I posted on Wednesday, I was like, this whole leveraging your opinions thing is probably pretty good practice. I should try and do it more often. So.
And that's going to do it for us here on You've Got to Be Sha Tinning Me. Obviously, check us out at onthewronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter. I am at Cherry Train. Matt is at Slow and Steadied. He'll have his full card picks up at some point in time on Twitter, so you can take a look at that. And yeah, until next week, let's make some money, guys. Have a good weekend.